Hello, everyone. So, this video, I wanted to dive into goddess decks and oracle cards and what they mean, represent, and how you can use the energy of the cards to tap into your daily life to help empower the goddess within. I pulled out some of the books that are included in some of my favorite decks that I've had, and I'm going to show with you the way that I personally have been working with the books out of my goddess box. And there's also ways you can extend your goddess knowledge further by incorporating books. This has been one of my favorite books I have found lately, the Encyclopedia of Goddesses and Heroines, which is phenomenal. You know, anything that's like an encyclopedia is my favorite. That way you're able to just look it up and get a synopsis. And then you can extend your knowledge further by catering the goddess that you connect with and purchasing books, finding essays online, anything that incorporates her myth, her story, her legend, just so you can understand all avenues and be able to connect to your goddess just like you would want to connect with a female friend. And then ways you can bring about in colors and flowers and scents and aromas into your home, foods, gardening, whatever it is to create that goddess energy completely surrounding you. So, with the goddess oracle decks, I've had a lot of questions lately on these, and especially how do I find my goddess and what do these oracle cards even represent? This is when we're using the energy of our intuition and we're pulling out something where you pull a card by random, but it's never by random. There's always something intuitively that drew you to that card to pull it out. That's that mystic energy from within. But let's go over some of my decks real quick. And sorry, I'm filming this myself on my handheld phone, so I'm not a pro at this. But anyways, okay. So one of the decks I wanted to go over, which has had some controversy lately, is the Guidebook of the Goddess's Guidance Oracle Cards by Doreen Virtue. And Doreen Virtue is a woman who's been around for years with mystical, metaphysical books, oracle decks, and she's going through her own path and journey right now. She's found a faith and religion that resonates with her, and she no longer would like to partake in working with this kind of energy. But that doesn't mean it's not a good starting point for someone to work with goddess decks, because the nice thing with this is she kind of covers the basics and breaks down the energy that the goddess that represents in the card is trying to bring to you. This is actually a really easy, affordable deck to track down and get familiar with. And that's why I kind of recommend it to everyone, whether or not you agree with her religious path that she's currently seeking her own internal peace with. It more so to do with the art that is released and how people can resonate with what it means for the time being in your life. And this is a deck that's really easy to understand, get connected with. And so, I wanted to cover this. And then I also wanted to go in depth with supporting your fellow goddesses and gifting to women that you know that could use the energy and support. This was a deck that I actually had gifted to me. I love this deck. It's a rare one, so you might have to find something like this on eBay. And the great thing with this deck is the images of the women are computer generated faces. So They actually, they're human women that were transformed to represent the goddesses that correlate with the card. So artistically, it just has a depth to it. It feels very connecting on a human level, even though it's a much more mystical layer to it. So I encourage you to support your fellow women that are going through transformation and changes and looking for guidance. Goddess oracle decks are all about empowerment of a feminine energy and helping you to work with the feminine energy that you might be stuck on, blocked with, or trying to nourish, trying to grow, and trying to expand. And when you gift something like this to your fellow goddesses, when they're going through a period of that type of transformation, that's a piece of you that will forever stay with them as much as the meaning of the goddess will stay with them. And so this is another easy deck I found, and I was intuitively drawn to it because of the fact that I have a feeling a lot of my clients in the spiritual industry and women that I know can relate to this. It has some different goddesses that are not with the Doreen Virtue cards. And, great explanation behind the story of the women in the cards. So this is another great one. And then my last deck I want to go over, the Divine Feminine Oracle Guidebook. I have fallen head over heels in love with this deck. Everything down to the depth of the explanation of the goddesses, the history, the representation of the cards. All of the cards have this beautiful red tone to it. So the artwork is just something to do with that connecting of that passion energy. And another deck that's not common use of the average goddess that you find in most decks. There's some rare ones in here as well. So, what does a goddess energy mean? What is a goddess? This is where we're taking multicultural stories of women and the female empowerment and growth and what they represented to society and what each woman kind of has a piece of inside of her. When you work with your goddess cards and you work with goddess energy, what you're doing is you're taking someone's journey, life story, and the overall meaning of the wisdom at the end of it, and you're working with that within yourself. You're empowering, you're growing, and you're expanding your knowledge, your truth, and getting connected with your core when you start working with goddess energy. Sometimes, it could be anything. You could be a woman in a household full of men. You could be nurturing and caretaking a daughter of your own. You could be going through a transformation and stages of your life. There's so many reasons why you would want to connect with feminine goddess energy. And oracle cards are a great way to take your intuition and to find that goddess that you're seeking internally. I'm also a firm believer goddesses choose us. They come across in signs. It could be anything as far as, encountering bugs in nature and flowers and repetitive patterns of birds visiting or certain things that just stand out. And it's like, hey, look at me, look at me. And then you go and you're like, wait a minute. Prime example, I've had Kali energy all around me the past year and a half. And I've been seeing hibiscus red flowers nonstop. And I'm like, okay, Kali, I see you. It's time for me to now really connect with the message you're trying to give me. It's all about finding your messages. So here I have a goddess oracle box. Um, a friend of mine went to Mexico, brought this back for me. It's a decoupage wood box, and it has Miss Frida Kahlo on there, who I consider like a modern day goddess. And I decided to add all of my decks into one box. Reason being is I like to use this at dinner parties and things of that sort where it's easy to kind of pass around. And I just go in, I shuffle, and I'll pull out a card based off of what grabs into my hand. So, for instance, this one I pulled Dakini, the enlightened feminine. My gut instinct is wise beyond reason, and I trust my intuition to guide me. And this is coming from that new deck, the divine feminine that I just purchased. So, so I have fun with the box because it's something that I can pick up, pass around, people can shuffle. But other ways that I personally love working the cards with is an old-fashioned way of just laying them out, hovering, seeing where my eyes are drawn, seeing where my hands want to go, and just letting my gut instinct guide to what I need to pull. Oshun. A lot of Oshun energy considering, prosperity and abundance and everything that, everyone's working towards since, we need to growth externally as well as internally. We need to keep our life surrounded by love, keep ourselves stress-free of financial burdens and worries. So this is where, pulling cards based off of what you feel drawn to and what's calling to you is a great way to kind of intuitively connect. And then there's people that shuffle and do classic spreads where, they might shuffle and they might say, okay, I have where I'm currently at, working with my unconditional love. I've shuffled my deck. Kuan Yin is also about compassion. This usually comes hand in hand when you have to be giving to people and you have to give yourself and you have to give love and support energy. So that right there, I would say, okay, that's your message. Work with prayer work. Now, when you start working with the goddess cards and you get connected with what their meanings are, that's where these books that come along with the decks, there's also other books you can add. I fell in love with this one, the Encyclopedia of Goddesses and Heroines. And that is something that I picked up on Amazon. I saw it in a bookshop and I couldn't buy it at that time. I wasn't in a place to carry around a book, but I took a picture of it and I remembered it. So with lockdown, I figured why not order it on Amazon? And it's a great way of referencing and getting connected with goddesses more in depth of their stories and where they originate from and in a reference way. So you can look up someone specific and just get a synopsis of them. So I encourage deeply supporting your small independent bookstores, but sometimes, in a pinch, you can find so many great modern day books on eBay, Amazon, and Etsy. They have some great books, as well as vintage. I love the vintage 70s, 60s, 50s books on spirituality and mysticism and goddesses. There's something about them that have a rawness and natural vulnerability to them because they're not overly explained or edited. And I encourage you when you do your goddess card pulls, create an ambiance. Have some flowers that represent a feminine energy for you. Light your favorite incense. Keep a candle lit to support energy. Vibration of crystals are always used by women, especially when we adorn ourselves with them. So go ahead and wear some of your favorite stones when you pull the cards. Take a bath ritual and anoint yourself in perfume. Have a glass of wine, have a cup of tea, coffee, whatever makes you feel the most secure, feminine embrace of, you know, sense of self that you can do for you, and make it to where it's special. Keep cloths and things, scarves. You can wrap them up in something pretty if you don't have a goddess box. Ways that you can create a sacred, special time, bond, and putting yourself in a space that surrounds working with divine feminine energy. So I hope my little going over some of my favorite oracle decks I have found. I'm always on the hunt for new ones, so definitely feel free to comment if you have a goddess deck that you have found that you think is amazing. And definitely I encourage you to bring that energy into your space, whether it's, like how I created flower bouquets that represented multiple roses for multiple goddesses and women, and keeping a candle lit, and all those things that bring that sense of energy to keep it going as long as possible. Definitely, I encourage that. But any other feedback or comments that you might have on anything you'd like to see in regards to goddess cards, and ways you can set up altars around them, or if you like to see an altar of a specific goddess that you might have in mind, but you're trying to figure out ways you can tap into her a little bit more in depth, just leave a comment. And I hope you enjoy and take care. Have a beautiful, blessed day.